Well, hello everybody and welcome to the Christmas in July Make-Along with Marley Bird and BrianaK. I am so thrilled you are joining us here once again to make another heirloom Christmas stocking. Making Christmas stockings is one of my favorite things to do, and every year I always design a new one. I've been doing it for several years now. As you know, last year, Briana and I decided we were going to join forces and make this an annual Christmas in July event where we come together one weekend in July and create a Christmas stocking with all of you. This pattern is free on our website, so you can get the knit pattern free at marleybird.com or the crochet pattern free at brianakdesigns.com. But this year, we've also provided an ad-free PDF available for purchase before the event. And not only do you get both designs in the PDF, both the knit one and the crochet one, but you will also get 4 other designs for a total of 6 patterns for one low price. So if you are somebody who really likes just to have everything in one nice little kit and caboodle and an ad-free PDF that is available for you to purchase, I've provided the link in the video description box below this video. If you are somebody who's like, hey, I like to do these knit-alongs, I really prefer the free content on the website, totally fine. It's the same content. It just has some ads there for and some affiliate links for advertising purposes. So you can go any route you want. Every year we're trying to improve the event just a little bit more. So this year we took it a step further, you guys. Not only do you get that pattern, not only do you have the availability to get those 6 patterns at one low price, but every day during the event we will release a video tutorial to help you with that day's instructions. And if you look at the instructions, you will notice that when we get to the color work, because spoiler alert, we're doing some color work, you will see that there are written instructions, a chart instructions, and a way to do color blocks. I'll explain all of that a little bit more when we get to that section, but just know this. We went out of our way to make sure that we were providing you with as many different ways to view and knit or crochet the patterns as possible. We wanted to make sure that you are guaranteed success. All right, so hopefully you're ready to go on this journey with us. Now that we've talked about the pattern, let's go ahead and talk about this yarn because you guys, I fell in love with it. For this stocking, we used City Tweed DK weight from Knit Picks and We Crochet. You guys, I wish you could feel this yarn through the camera because it feels so good and it is absolutely delightful to knit with. It is 55% merino wool, 25% superfine alpaca, and 20% Donegal tweed. It feels so great as you are knitting with it, and the result, I mean, just the beauty of the tweed look in here, it just makes it look so amazing. And you guys, can I just tell you, like usually I'm allergic to alpaca, and this is so lovely that I want to make a sweater out of this for myself because it just feels so very good. And don't judge me, you guys know that you rub the yarn on your cheeks too to see if you like it. During the video tutorials, I'm using a slightly different color palette for the second stocking, so that way I don't have 2 stockings that are absolutely identical. I'm still using the kelp and the romance and the artichoke, but instead of cobalt, which is what I used on the heel and my toe, I will be using porpoise. And instead of snowbank, which is essentially my main color throughout, it's sort of that light creamy color, I'm going to use what's called harbor seal, okay? Now that you have the pattern, whether it's the ad-free PDF or the free version on the website, gather your materials, join me back here, and we're going to get started with the picot cuff and then work right into the Latvian braid. And that's all you need to do for this portion of the stocking. The next 2 days are going to be really intense and you're going to have a lot of knitting, but for today, we're going to ease our way in. Let's get started. Something you may have never noticed is when you look at a stocking, you will often start at the cuff and then look all the way down the stocking. So to me, the cuff is a very important aspect of your stocking. It's the first thing that your eye tends to go to. And so I decided I wanted to do a picot cuff for this stocking, which is so easy. It looks super intricate. And the first time you do it, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I want to add this to everything. It's just done with knits and purls and then one row of knit two together togethers and yarn overs. Once you have all that, you have to do knit two togethers, the cast on row and the row you're on, sort of like a 3-needle bind off, and it joins it together and it makes it so that you have this nice finished cuff here. I mean, it's just so pretty. Look at the inside of my stocking. It's just gorgeous. So this cuff is super easy to do. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the pattern so you can see how you would read the instructions to follow along with this. We're taking a look at the instructions that are provided in the ad-free PDF, and you'll notice right here where it says you start with the cuff. And all of our instructions are written in this sort of table format, making it very easy for you to check mark as you go. So for your setup, you're going to use your smaller circular needle. So for me, that would be my size 7 16-inch needle, or 4.5 millimeter. And we're going to use our color A. So my color A, as you can see in here, it was Snowbank. So this time I'm going to use that Harbor Seal color. All right, so whatever your color A is, you're going to use that, and you're going to cast on 84 stitches on those circular needles. Once you get those stitches cast on your needle, you're just going to knit for 5 rounds. Nothing special, just knit. It's the next round that something gets a little bit different, so that way we can get that picot. On round 6, you will do a knit two together and then yarn over, and repeat that all the way around. So you'll do knit two together, yarn over, knit two together, yarn over, knit two together, yarn over, all the way to the end. Word to the wise, don't forget that last yarn over before your marker, okay? Once you have finished that round, you will knit 5 more rounds, all right? So all of this, you have a total of 11 rounds going on here. It's on round 12 where I am right now, and that's where I want to show you how we're going to knit 2 stitches together, 1 stitch from our cast on edge and 1 stitch on our left hand needle to create that really beautiful picot. So what I want you to do right now is go ahead and get to round 12 where you're ready to work this step of the cuff, and let me walk you through how to do it, all right? Round 12. Doesn't look like much is going on here, does it? But it really is. What you will notice here is, so I'm at the end of my round, but as I uncurl my work, you're going to see that there are some eyelets in there, right? Where I did my knit two togethers and yarn overs. And then I have some knits, and I'm ready to fold this over and create my picot. Now, here's what's really cool. You're knitting around, you're like this, you're just like, this looks crazy. This looks like nothing. But if you were to take your work and fold it to where you're bringing the cast on edge up towards the inside of the circular needle, can you see how you get that really neat picot? I mean, that's so simple, right? Such a simple technique to add to a hem of a shirt, even sleeves, something on a little girl project. I mean, it's just a fun little thing to do, okay? So I love learning this stitch. You could use a sewing needle and some string and just stitch it together later on, but you know what? We're knitting. Why not just go ahead and knit it together right now so that way it's ready to go and it eases up our finishing. That's much more up my alley. So this might be a little bit tricky to start, but be patient with yourself. You will get this, and once you're done, you're going to be like, wow, this is amazing, all right? All right, so let's grab our work. We are still using our color A, but here's the trick. So here's my marker to start my round. I'm going to fold up my cast on edge just like I did before. And what's going to happen, I'm going to put my needle into that first stitch, and when I fold this up, I want to find my corresponding edge of the first stitch that I cast on. So right there, okay? And if you get out of place, don't panic, it's okay. So let's just put my needle into that one also, okay? I know this doesn't look like much. If you see here, I'm kind of just finagling it, and as I go along, I'll gradually pinch these on the needle as I work. So I have my right hand needle into my stitch on my left hand needle, and I have it into the stitch or the loop or the very edge of my cast on stitch, my cast on row of that same stitch if you were to take that column. Okay, does that make sense? You guys with me here? Get my tail out of the way, and now I'm just going to knit. So I yarn over my right hand needle, and you could take the time to even just pop it out of the cast on edge and then pop it out of the needle just like you're knitting, and off. And that's one. Go into the stitch on your needle, go into the next stitch on your cast on edge, and you just kind of have to look for it. Just scooch down there, put your needle in, be like, is that a good spot? Yep, that looks good to me. Yarn over, pop it out of your cast on edge, pop it out of your stitch on your needle, and off. And we're going to do this all the way around. What's supposed to happen is that you will be able to have one stitch and one corresponding stitch on the cast on edge all the way around. If for some reason it gets off just a little bit, like maybe you're off by one or you have one too many at the very end, I went too many stitches there. It's not the end of the world. Don't panic. Don't even rip out. Honestly, all you need to do is either skip the stitch if it's on the cast on edge, if you have an extra stitch there, or if you're missing a stitch there and you need 2 stitches to complete the 2 stitches that are on your left-hand needle, just connect one of them to the cast on edge and just knit the next one as normal. It'll be just fine. Anything that happens to look a little bit funny or not joined very well on the inside of the stocking, we can use our tail to seam up. So it's not the end of the world, okay? So let's go ahead and finish this round. I'm gonna switch hands for those of you who are continental, so that way you can see how I do it when I do continental. I do make sure that I get those stitches up there, get them folded so I can get what I want in place. I think the trickiest part is this part, just making sure you're into both stitches as correctly as possible. I think I'm in the back there. I need to get in the front. There we go. I'm just yarning over my left hand needle to go through the stitch. Both stitches, I should say. There we go. See that? See what's happening? Look how cool it is. You can see on the inside, it's making this nice little seam right there. And when we do the next bit, it's going to butt right up to that seam and it's going to look great. All right, I'm going to keep going. Once you get all the way around to the end, I'm going to go ahead and slip that. I'm just going to knit one just real quick just so I can show you. Your work will look a little something like this. You should be able to see all these nice little picot ridges. I mean, look how pretty that is. And on the inside, you have this nice, very subtle, simple ridge. Not difficult, right? It's something very fun to do and it really packs a punch. It's a fun technique to add to just about anything. All right, so for my stocking, I decided that it was time to transition to the Latvian braid. I've been obsessed with them lately, and so I've just about added them to everything I'm making. I've even had my beginner knitters work on the Latvian braid. I'm a big fan. So that's what we're gonna jump into now. The next thing you'll see is that we're supposed to drop color A. Does that mean you have to cut it? No. Am I going to cut it? Yes, because I don't want it to get in the way when I'm doing the Latvian braid, but you don't have to cut it if you don't want to. Right here, I am actually just winding up my tail so that I can deal with it later. Here's my yarn. I can just drop it here and not worry about it and then pick it up after the fact, or I can go ahead and cut it. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut my yarn. It's just easier for me to have that color cut and out of the way as I'm working on the next step, which is the Latvian braid. As we take a look down here at the instructions once again, you'll see that we are going to use color B and color C for this first round. And we're going to knit one with each color. So that means we're going to begin some stranded color work. Now, on this very first round, we're going to hold our yarn just like we normally would do with stranded color work. I like to hold mine one in each hand. And so I will be following along with my knitting in that manner. If you prefer a different way, go ahead and do that. It's totally up to you. Let's get through round one, okay? Here is my color B, which is the porpoise taking place of the cobalt, and then here is my color C, which is kelp. So I will hold C in my right hand, B in my left hand, No really big reason for this one, but we're gonna do 1 knit stitch with color B to begin. So for me, you guys, I don't know if you know this, I always like to tie on my new color onto my old color. It just prefer it, so I'm doing that. You absolutely don't have to do that. All right, so I have to unknit that one there because that was just holding my stitch marker, and then I will knit 1. Now I'm supposed to knit 1 with this color. So I'm not going to tie this one on because then that makes it just a little bit too thick. So I just knit 1 with this color. Knit 1 with B, and then I will knit 1 with C. Make sure you have the actual yarn, not your tail. Okay, let me move that. Can you see how this is working? So I have 1 yarn in each hand, and when it's time to knit with B, I wrap my yarn over top my needle and I knit with B. When it's time to knit with C, I wrap my yarn over top my needle and I knit with C. The actual movement is the same. I just have the yarn in 2 different hands. If you're not comfortable with this type of knitting, I highly recommend practicing because it will make knitting your leg of the stocking and foot of the stocking so much easier. So we're just going to go around making sure we're going from one to the next, all the way around, okay? Make sure you are not pulling your stitches too snug, okay? Make sure they're nice and separated out as you're working. And this is all you do. We're going to do this all the way around. When you get to the end, you should end with color C in your last stitch. Slip your marker, and then this is where we begin all the action for the Latvian braid, all right? So let's take a look at our pattern once again. We just completed 1 stitch in each color all the way around, and now we're going to bring our yarn to the front of the work. And this first round is important because it sets up our colors for the Latvian braid. On round 2, we are traditionally going to knit into the same color stitch as we're knitting with. So if we're knitting into a color B, we will work with the color B. If we're knitting into a color C, we'll work with the color C, so on and so forth. With our yarn in front, we know that we're probably going to purl, and that's exactly what we will do. We will purl 1 with color B, bring color C over top of color B. That's going to twist our yarn. Then we will purl 1 with color C. And then we will continue. We'll bring color B over top of color C, twisting the yarn again, and we keep repeating that. Now, for those of you who are like, I hate twisting my yarn, I don't want to twist my yarn, just trust me on this. We are going to twist our yarn on this round, and on round 3, the way we do our purls on round 3, we untwist the yarn. So don't waste your time untwisting the yarn as you go along through this round because you're going to untwist it on the next round naturally. I understand it's a thing that it's like really hard to not untwist your yarn. Like I did it the first time I ever did a Latvian braid, and then I realized later I was like, oh, I didn't have to do that. So just trust me on this one, all right? So let's get busy and do some purling. Okay, let's bring both of our colors to the front of our work. And here is where I no longer hold 1 color in each hand. I actually let go of my work as I'm doing a Latvian braid. And I tend to, as I twist my yarn and create my stitches, I try to not make my stitches super tight. I feel like it lets the braid look a little bit prettier and a little bit more full if it is just a little bit bigger, okay? So our first color on my needle, it might be hard to see because it's a little bit dark, but that's my color B. Great, you guys have the same thing. And I'm going to purl with my color B. So I'm going to grab my color B here, and I'm going to purl with it. Now I'm going to go into my color C, okay? And I'm going to take my color C and go over top of my color B. So I'm going to drop my B, pick up my C, I'm going over top of it. Can you see that? I'm going over top of it, and I'm going to purl with my color C. Drop my color C, it's over on this side now. Pick up my color B, go on top of C. I'm going to purl with C. See what I mean about twisting the yarn? It's just naturally going to happen, you guys. Just let it happen. And as you're going into color B, you will purl with color B. And as you're going into color C, you will purl with color C. Go ahead and continue in this manner all the way around your cuff, okay? I know it's going to be a little bit annoying with the twisted yarn, but just bear with it. It will be untwisted on the next round. Oh goodness, as you get down to the last bits, it really gets twisted and it makes it a little bit tricky, so don't give up yet. You're nearly done. And then on this next bit, we will be able to get it correct in the sense that it won't be twisted anymore, I promise. All right, so remember on this round, we've gone one color over top of the other color, okay? Get to the end of your round. Here's my color C, slip my marker, and I'm going to just work this one right here, just like on round one. So just my very first stitch, I'm gonna go over top, okay? For all of my other stitches around, this time, I'm gonna take my color and go underneath. And that's going to untwist my yarn, and it's going to make it so that way the float, which is what creates the Latvian braid, the float from one color to the next, will start to go the opposite way, and it will look really good. You'll see what I mean as you start working on it. So as you're going through this, now instead of, for me, I was doing over, right? We were doing over. I'm gonna come in here, get between, and I'm gonna go under. So my green's gonna go under my blue, and I'm going to purl with it. And then my blue is gonna go under my green, and I'm gonna purl with it. So on and so forth. And it's going to get easier as you go around, just like as we went around that first one, it got harder. This one starts off hard and it gets easier because we're gonna get to where we don't have our stitches twisted anymore. Because by doing this, we are untwisting them. See why I told you not to spend time untwisting them as you were knitting that first round? It's because we're doing it right now, okay? So let's go ahead, get all the way around, doing just like this, okay? You're gonna start to see your work come to life. Hopefully yours will show up a little bit better for you there as you're working with it. Mine's a little bit dark. I'm okay with that. I knew that's what I was going with on this stocking, but that's the beauty of being able to knit our own stockings. We can make them any color we want. So let's go ahead, let's finish this round. After you purl your last stitch, go ahead and slip your marker and you're ready for round 3, but I'll give you a little tip. Before I jump into the next round, I like to go ahead and purl that first stitch on the next round, just like I've been doing all the others. I just think it makes it look really nice. And it's just a personal preference thing. So I'll just purl that one. And then you can cut or drop your color B and C. I like to move them back to the back. And we're going to continue on for the next 2 rounds, just knitting with color A. And we will use color A for 2 rounds of knitting. And that will set you up for the leg of the stocking, which we will do in the next video. Now, as we take a look down here at my Latvian braid, it's really difficult to see. My colors are way too close together. I probably should have chose different colors, but you know what? You live and learn. It's still gonna look nice. It's gonna be nice and subtle. But let's bring the sample over so you can kind of peek at how this looks. Can you see how the twist that we worked as we were working them gives us this illusion of chevrons? So we worked our stocking this way, or I worked my stocking this way. So on my first twist, it gave me this direction here. And then my second twist gave me this direction here. So I have what looks like a chevron braid all the way around my cuff here, and I like it. So right here, these are the 2 rows you're going to knit with your color A, and then you'll be ready for this portion of the stocking in the next video. We're gonna work all of this all the way down to right here. So the next video, we're gonna talk about our color work, how to hold our yarn, how to weave our yarn as we go, and then I'm gonna give you some tips on how to add a little pop of color to the leg should you choose. All right, so that's it for this video and this part of the stocking. I really do hope you're getting excited about this Christmas in July knit-along, crochet-along. Don't forget there is a crochet version. BrianaK has a very beautiful crochet stocking that you can whip up for yourself if you choose to do that. And if you get the ad-free PDF, you'll get both patterns. All right, everybody, that's it for me. I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.